NCLT, and other compliances. Today, not only are the CS giving a run for their money to lawyers before NCLT, they're also providing highly professional consultancy and NCLT services world over. Here, I must admit to you that Pramodji will be talking to us about the changes in Schedule 3 and what has happened to those changes. You know, we've got some very important changes which affect the accounting profession as such, how accounts are made, how accounts will be made for the year ended 31/3/20 as well as 21 as well as subsequently, though it's applicable from 1st April, having been enacted on 24th March. But some of those provisions are very, very relevant here. So whether it's aging of the trade receivables, payables, what the relations of companies vis-a-vis those companies which are struck off, what are the 11 ratios which are to be made, how audit trails are to be done, how share capital of people who, irrespective of the 5% this thing, is to be shown, how loans and advances, promoters, directors, KMPs, related parties are going to show, is going to be a very important thing. So each one of you has a huge opportunity, courtesy of this Companies Act, to do practice in niche areas. CSR, for example, we big firms do a lot of work in CSR, but I can assure you, each one of you, if you look at CSR properly, study the rules, etc., you can build a solid CSR practice for yourself, because each one of you has the ability to do so. And I'm sure that CSR will give you a lot of this thing. Training independent directors, sourcing directors, asking directors what their rights are going to be, how are they going to do, etc. And the most important thing in pandemic time, how are meetings going to be held? We in the branch have been fortunate to have certain great speakers like Pramodji having come remotely. How are we doing AGMs? How are we doing remote meetings? How are we digitally acting on the pandemics? So special committees have been set up, committees where directors have been part. Directors have given advice to companies on how to do things. And lastly, I'm going to speak to you something which is very dear to me. What do independent directors do? So I take quote from one of my former CEOs of India who formed the Indus initiatives in the worldwide, Sriram Iyengar. He was doing a study in Stanford on independent directors, and he was taught in a reference to a statement in a seminar by Stanford University. They said that a former Chief Justice of the Delaware Supreme Court, who said directors who are independent directors are supposed to be independent, should have the guts to be a pain in the neck and act independently. These words should be in the back of every director's mind as he sits in board meetings, and without being disagreeable, each director should try their best to meet the standard. Board governance is like a team sport, with each independent director having different pieces of the same jigsaw, which they then put together to make the whole picture. So all you practicing and people who are in jobs can actually guide these independent directors. Secondly, boardroom insights. How do board functions? How do the special committees act? I'll give you an example of Ludhiana. During the pandemic, Ludhiana industry, family-owned businesses, made the small clusters where they spoke to promoters on a joint basis on how standard operating procedures are going to be made for companies to open, to companies to handle pandemic, companies to handle the salaries of people. So these kind of things are going to happen. And I'm not going to waste more time because I'm keen to hear Pramodji. Thank you so much, Vishal sir, Upkarji, Tucker Saab, for giving me an opportunity, and for Sood Saab. And thank you so much for addressing us now, Pramodji. Over to you, Vishalji. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir. It is always a pleasure to hear from your side, sir. Am I audible?
Absolutely.
Okay, sure. So it is always a food for thought for hearing from you, sir. The way you are saying that you have entered after doing practice into big firms. Well, sir, you set a great example for everyone around you, sir. It is a pleasure to have you. So now moving ahead, we have with us the main speaker for today's virtual CPE meet, Sir Pramod Jain, sir. Well, talking about, sir, he is a commerce graduate from Shriram College of Commerce. He is FCA, FCS, and he is also CMA cost accountant. He has done his LLB from Delhi. Well, he's also a member of All India All India Management Association. He is also an insolvency professional. He has also passed the proficiency self-assessment test for Independent Directors Database. Well, sir has passed certification course of NCFM of National Stock Exchange of India. He has also done certification course of CAAT of ICI. He has also done post-qualification certification course on valuation of ICI. Well, Pramod Jain sir is also Central Council member for the period 2019-2021. And he is also conceptualizer of portal www.expertspanel.in, which is one of the top solution for all the professional queries, which has given more than 20,000 answers since its launch in mid of 2018. Well, sir has delivered more than 1,000 lectures and articles on various topics of income tax, corporate laws, LLPs, audit, peer review, quality review, etc., at more than 150 forums across India. So now, with these words, now invite Pramod Jain sir for his deliberations. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Vishalji. CA Upkar Singh ji, Chairman of the Chandigarh branch, Vishal Puri ji, Anil Kakkar ji, all other managing committee members of the Chandigarh branch, my seniors in the panel, AK Sood sir and Atul Gandhi sir. In fact, and all my dear friends, sabko namaste. In fact, it was a pleasure to hear my senior co-panelists, Sood Sahab and Gandhi sir. Sood Sahab talked about the amendments in the Companies Amendment Act 2020 and the Schedule 3, and shared his views about what are these amendments all about. And Gandhi sir told in a very lucid way various amendments and the requirements, and what I could understand from what he was saying, that there is a huge scope for practicing into the corporate area. IBC was one of them, independent directors is one of them. Apart from them, I would say so many fields are there in the corporate law itself, which if a member undergoes and he understands that, he can do wonders into his own practice. I'll be sharing a presentation. And I'll request my senior panelists to chip in wherever they needs to add an input into that. I'll be really obliged for the same. I'll really be obliged. So I'll be sharing a presentation, and we'll be going ahead. So talking about the recent changes in the Companies Act, and nowadays when I talk about the recent changes in the Companies Act, I start with the Union Budget, the budget speech, the Union Budget 2021, which the Honorable FM presented the budget in the Parliament on 1st of February 2021. And why the budget in the corporate laws? And even if I take a session on a income tax or a practical asset, I again start with this only, the corporate laws. You know, we have been seeing that through the finance bill, I have rarely seen any Companies Act provisions to be amended. Last which I saw was in section 182 through the Finance Act 4 or 5 years back, when they removed the requirement of a specified percentage which a company can contribute to a political party. It was amendment in the Finance Act through the amendment in the Companies Act through the Finance Act. So anywhere if you see a Companies Amendment Act, you will not find, but you will have to go to the Finance Act to see that amendment. But this time I was very surprised to see, to hear Honorable FM talking about corporate laws in her budget speech. In the speech it was talked about, she talked about two important amendments, and both the amendments were made applicable before the finance bill becoming Finance Act. And these both amendments are very near to my heart because these are related to the small and medium companies. And I'm telling you that these two amendments could help the professionals in a new professional opportunities. The first one is about the change in the definition of small company. The change is there in the definition of a small company, and this amendment is there with effect from 1st of April 2021. prior to 1st April 2021, what was the definition? The definition was that a small company is other than a public company. That is, it is a private company and it is not a holding company or a subsidiary company or a Section 8 company or a specified company. So being a private company, not being this, its paid up capital was less than 50 lakhs and turnover was less than 2 crores. If you see the definition under Section 2, subsection 85, you will see that the limit which is given in this section is that the paid up capital should not exceed 50 lakhs, not exceeding 5 crores, and turnover should not exceed 2 crores, not exceeding 20 crores. So I used to represent through to the PMO, to the MCA, to the ease of doing business, that this limit of a small company which is there for 50 lakhs of 20 crores turnover and capital, you have got into the act itself. The higher limits, you just have to issue a notification, at least go up to 10 crore for a small company, or a paid up capital 1 crore, but turnover increasing, because 2 crore is nothing for a small company. But in 2018, what we saw that through the amendment, this 5 crore was increased to 10 crores and this 20 crores was increased to 100 crores. Again, I wrote, I said, you have increased the higher limit, but at least whatever is the existing limit, use that. And I was very pleasantly surprised when Honorable FM in her budget speech talked about this, that yes, this paid up capital would be increased from 50 lakhs to 2 crores and turnover from 2 crores to 20 crores. Now just see, all the small and medium practitioners, many of our clients will become a small company. For March 31, the limit would remain 50 lakh and 2 crore. But from the current financial year onwards, many of our companies, our clients' companies, would become a small company. So what is the benefit of being a small company? You don't have to do anything. It automatically becomes a small company. Of course, benefits are plenty. For example, you need to have a lower compliances. For example, instead of 4 meetings, 2 meetings would suffice. Or I would say for certain forms where the pre-certification of professional is required, that would not be required. The directors can themselves certify and file their annual forms. Apart from that, if I talk about, there would be no cash flow statement, no CARO report, no IFC. For a small company, not applicable. So, lowering of the compliances. Another relief which a small company gets as compared to the other than small companies, that in case of the 3 compliances, that is my filing of financial statements in AOC4, my filing of the annual return in MGT7, or filing of my special resolutions in MGT14. For this, if the delayed filing 100 rupees per day is there, but the penalty for late filing, what is there given, that would be only 1/2, 50% for a small company, lower penalties. Another big benefit which a small company would happen is there, and which is again professional opportunity, is that 2 or more small companies, they can merge without going to NCLT. No need to go to NCLT, just the RD would do it through the fast track merger scheme given in Section 233. So now the scope of small company, when it is increasing from 2 crore to 20 crore, so a group wants to reduce their number of companies, so they can merge it by applying it to RD, and no need to go to NCLT for the same. So again, a benefit is there. A benefit is there. The second amendment which they have made is again a very good amendment, and again a huge professional opportunity, and that is related to 1-person company. In 1-person company also there was a limit that in case the turnover of a 1-person company exceeded 2 crores or paid up capital exceeded 50 lakhs, it had to mandatorily convert into a private company, that is need to require another shareholder, another director. Now, that limit has been amended, and with effect from 1st April 2021, the limits are totally gone. The limits are totally gone. Now, now a company, a one-person company can have 1,000 crore turnover, paid up capital 100 crores, which was not there earlier. Because the moment the turnover limit was exceeded, it had to convert into a normal private company, having 2 shareholders and 2 directors. And also, who can incorporate a OPC? Earlier, only an Indian citizen who was a resident could incorporate. And resident here means a person who is resident in India for more than 182 days in a year. But now what they have allowed, that even a non-resident who's an Indian citizen, he can form a one-person company. Now, if we remember, in Finance Through Finance Act 2020, there was a change whereby it said that in case of a non-resident who's having income in India exceeding 15 lakhs, then he would become a resident but not ordinary resident. Now, those non-residents, if they have those incomes in this OPC, they would still remain non-resident but not RNOR. Right? And also the number of days to become resident here has been reduced for only OPC from 182 days to 120 days. And this change, which is very important, that is no limit for forced conversions. The turnover can be 100 crores, 1,000 crores, capital may be anything. Or even if I have to convert my existing private company to one-person company, no need to get that my turnover should be less than 2 crores in the past 3 years or something like that. Nothing required. So my existing companies can also be converted into OPC. And there is a single form for both ways conversion, INC 6. 1% company to private company or private company to 1% company, a single form. So why should I have a 1% company? What is the benefit of a 1% company? If I talk about, suppose I'm talking to my friends where it is, I would say they are having a sole proprietorship. They have to incorporate a sole proprietorship. What is required? Nothing. You say, you have got a PAN, let us take a GST, let us start. Open a bank account, current account, open, let us start. But of course, you have to open a 1% company. You know the procedure. It is just like a private company. So of course, professional opportunity is there. But in my view, it should never be a win-loss situation that the professional is winning and the assessee is losing, the other party is losing. It has to always be a win-win situation. If it is not a win-win situation, it will not last long. So what is the benefit? To whom we have to tell about this? Those persons who don't have the other person, the second person to become a shareholder or a director. They are making a person who's an employee or a friend, because they don't want a spouse to have it. Maybe due to the reason that he or she is a government employee or whatever reason it is. But they want a designation as a director. They want to deal with the MNCs. They want to go internationally, and they want to have a private limited company. But they are individual, they are single, they don't have the second person. With the lesser compliances, can they do it? Yes. So those category of persons is the first thing. And second, in case of sole proprietorship, is there the liability limited? No. In case of OPC, the liability is limited. Liability is limited, which is not there in sole proprietorship. So huge benefit out there. Secondly, in case of sole proprietorship, there is an issue that in case, God forbidding, due to COVID or other reasons, the sole proprietor expires. So who would succeed in succession planning? In OPC, it is there, succession planning. In your memorandum, you'll put the name of the nominee who would be there, who would automatically become the shareholder and the director. So it is there in sole proprietorship. It is not there. Yes, you have to follow certain procedures. You have to change the GST number. You have to change the PAN. All things will change. But here, the company would continue with the same GST, same PAN, same IEC. Yeah, of course, being a private limited company, irrespective of its turnover or the activity, the financial statements have to be prepared as per Schedule 3. The audit is required. The restrictions on the deposits is there. The Section 73, 185, 186, all those are there. Hence, it is only for those who want to grow, who want to do business in a corporate level, in spite of being individual, like various consultants. They would love to do it because when they are going with an MNC or doing the work now, globe is the world, the whole globe you can do your business, your profession. So you can do that. So those benefits are there, and there is a benefit under income tax. An individual, a sole proprietor, cannot give salary or remuneration to himself. But OPC is a private company, separate legal entity, perpetual succession. The nominee would become the succeeding shareholder and the director. So in this case, he can get the salary from the OPC, get the interest on his loan. If he's into manufacturing, get the reduced rate of taxation, 15% or 22%. Yes, if he has to declare a dividend, then that dividend income, of course, would be as per his slab rates. So that is there. So seeing all the pros and cons, there is going to be a time now, because that 2 crore limit restriction has been removed, that more and more OPC would be formed with the lesser compliances. Any of your views or comments or questions on this small company or OPC, please put that in the chat box also. If you want to put, or Sood Sahab or Gandhi Sahab want to add any question, please you can put it in the chat box. कोई क्वेश्चन? अभी तक तो कोई नहीं आया. Should I continue then?
Please continue.
Take. Now, another thing which we talk about is these forms, the due dates. You know, we many a times hear in a very casual way कि ROC की forms की due date extend हो गई. Not this time due to COVID, but earlier also. Please note that the due date of the forms are never extended in the MCA. Never. In case of AGM, they granted the extension which could be possible by applying in GNL2. But for forms, the due dates are never changed. What is done is that the additional fee, you can file the form without paying the additional fee. The due date remains same. The due dates remain same. So never say that the due date has been extended. Yeah, you can file it without the additional fee. And now they have made this change that for the charges form, where you could have filed the form between 1st April 21 to 31st May, you can file it up to 31st July with the normal fee without additional fee. The due date has not changed, but the period which is given, that which was pending as on 1st April and this was supposed to be filed between 1st April to 31st May, you can file that up to 31st July with the normal fee. And the gap which was required for 2 board meetings of not more than 120 days, that has been extended by 60 days to be 180 days. And of course, for the all other forms, additional fee, the exemption has been given that those forms which were required to be filed between 1st April to 31st May, they can file by 31st July. And please take care. Initially they said all forms in that circular notification. But when they released the forms, the first list talked about very less forms. The second list talks about the more important forms, which included AOC 4, MGT 7, LLP 8, Form 8 in the LLP, Form 13 in the LLP. But they still omitted various forms. So third list came. But if you see on the MC website, there is only one list. And now even DIR 12, etc. has been included. So please see which forms are included into this. And one question which comes out here, that my form which was required to be filed, say AOC 4, which was required to be filed on the AGM which was held on December 2020. Can this be filed here with the relaxation, the additional fee? The answer is no, because that was required to be filed by January or Feb. So any form which were required to be filed by between the period of 1st April to 31st May, only they can be filed up to 31st July. Again, any questions on this? Because I love to see if any questions are there on the subject wise which we are discussing, instead of going at the end and then talking about the questions. Any questions coming in the mind, you can surely put that in the chat box. Going further. Now, another thing which Gandhi sir told about, where the practice is there with the bigger firms, which can be done by the smaller firms also, is the CSR. A huge professional opportunity, of course. And now there is a change with effect from 22nd of January 2021, impacting the whole financial year 2020-2021. And now, who is required basically? We just to brush it up, that any company, whether it is a private limited, whether it is a public company, whether it is an IBC company, foreign company, they have to constitute a CSR committee and spend at least 2% of the average net profits made during the last 3 years. If any of these conditions are met, that is, first, the net worth of 500 crore rupees, it exceeds the net worth of rupees 500 crores, or turnover is 1,000 crores or more, or net profit is 5 crore or more. And believe me, many companies are coming into this. On a day-to-day basis, many companies are coming into this limit of 5 crores or more. Now, what happened up to 31st March 20? Up to 31st March 20, the system was to comply or explain that you spend this 2%. If you're not able to spend, give the reason, give the explanation in your board report. Now, with effect from 22nd January 2021, the amendment which was made in the Companies Amendment 2020 has been made applicable. So what has happened? The new provision section 139(5) and 6 has been made applicable, and the rules have been amended. So now what is there? If you don't spend, earlier you don't spend, give the reason, that's fine. Now if you have not spent, give the reason plus. In case you're not spending, if it is not for an ongoing project, then you have to transfer that unspent amount to a Schedule 7 fund within 6 months from the end of the financial year. So by 30th September, you have to give that money to the government, Prime Minister Relief Fund, PM Care Fund, or Swachh Bharat, Clean Ganga. These are the funds which are given. And if it is not an ongoing project, if it is an ongoing project, in that case, you have to open a new account with a bank, a scheduled bank, titled Unspent CSR account within 30 days from the end of the year. You have to ensure that it is for the ongoing project, and then spend that within 3 years. If you don't spend within 3 years, then after the end of the 3 years, within 30 days, you have to transfer it to Schedule 7 funds. So up to March 2020, we were not making a provision in the books of accounts. From March 2021, we have to take care to make a provision. Either it is not an ongoing project or an ongoing project, and ensure that it is spent within the time period. If you are not, give it to the government. Give it to the government. So please take care. Please take care about this. This might have missed in certain cases. Any questions on the CSR? Any question on the CSR? Great. So everything is clear, no issues. चलें जी आगे. Any questions? No. Chalo. Let us go ahead. Now, another notification came for making the audit trail mandatory. Now, what is this audit trail? What is this audit trail? Can anyone tell me that what do we mean by this audit trail? Should be there in the softwares. Can anyone tell me? You can write in the chat box. इसका मतलब क्या हुआ कि audit trail होना चाहिए? Yes, that has been extended from 1st April 2021 to 1st April 2022. But I should be aware of it. What is this audit trail? Keeping record of changes. Rajesh ji का कहना है. You know, if I talk about, if my contemporary and my seniors, they just recollect, or even my younger friends, that when we studied our accountancy in 11th, 12th, or graduation through any textbook, was there any option given, or were we taught that if you have made a wrong entry, delete it? सीमा जी का भी यही कहना है, changes made details. उमाकांत मेहता जी का भी यही कहना है, to keep record of any additional or deletion of any entry subsequently. You know, the system, if it is maintained, now at that time when these books were maintained in a binded books, in those binded books, we could not delete any entry. What we could do was to reverse the entry. So whatever was entered was entered. Now the basic concept, because now after computerization, the assessees feel, the businessmen feel that अगर एंट्री गलत हो गई तो डिलीट कर दिया तो लीगल है ना, इधर दिक्कत क्या है? But it is not that. It is not that. Now, audit trail would be that software would be having the trail of the entries made, when, why, who deleted, who amended, and all those things. Now, what would happen? Now, suppose a company has that audit trail. So he will mention in his notes to accounts, yes, there is an audit trail and entries have been deleted. Would it be enough? That yes, it needs to have an audit trail. Is the audit trail is there? Yes. So whose role comes? The role of the auditor comes. The role of the auditor comes. And please see that auditor will have to seize those reports generated of the audit trail and ask for the reason. And if not satisfied, he'll have to report. So this is going to come. And please, my thought process is that when it will come in your software, you won't be having two different softwares. If it is coming into Tally, if it is coming into Busy, if it comes SAP, it is already there. So if you are maintaining 100 companies, 100 records there, so all would be having that audit trail. So as an auditor, I'll have to do that even for the proprietorship, partnership LLPs, where in the same software, the audit trail is there. As an auditor, if I'm doing the audit, I have to take care of those exceptions and have a reasoning. Please see, please see. Tell to the clients right now कि एंट्री करके डिलीट करना आप इसे बंद कर दें. ऐसा नहीं है कि अभी आपने एंट्री कर ली बाद में उसको डिवाइड कर लेंगे. No, nothing like that. Nothing like that. The role of the auditor would be very, very important out there. The role of the auditor would be very, very important out there, because this audit trail would affect the reporting by the auditor. Please understand this. So tell to your clients who are in habit. We all know which of our clients would be doing that. So tell them in advance, right? Now, going further, the changes in Schedule 3. And if I talk about, let us see what is there in the Schedule 3. In Schedule 3, there are 3 divisions. Division 1, which is containing the format of the financial statements, which are required to comply with the accounting standards, which are notified under the company's accounting standard rules 2006. And the majority of the companies are into this category. Then there is Division 2, which talks about those companies which have to comply with Ind AS, the IFRS converged standards. These are the listed entities, plus those entities whose net worth is more than 250 crores. Or their holding subsidiary, or anyone who has voluntarily adopted that. And the Division 3 is for those NBFCs who have to adopt the Ind AS. So the 3 divisions. And the changes had been made in all the 3 divisions. The Division 1, if I talk about, just summarizing, general instruction. General instruction means basically the change is there in the notes to the accounts. So general instruction, 1 change is there for Division 1. For balance sheet, in the format, 1 change. For the notes to the balance sheet, more than 25 changes. Statement of profit loss, on the face of it, 1 change. And the general instructions for statement of profit loss, 4 changes. Division 2, again, general instructions, 1 change. Then balance sheet, on the face of it, 2 change. Statement of changes in equity has been totally substituted. Then the general instructions for the balance sheet, more than 28 changes. And these changes are literally same as compared to my Division 1. Same changes are there. And profit loss, of course, general instructions, again 4 changes. And similarly for Division 3, statement of changes in equity, that has been substituted. The general instructions, the notes to the balance sheet, more than 23 changes. And general instructions for the profit loss, notes for profit loss, 3 changes. So let us talk about the changes, because the changes in the balance sheet and profit loss are literally same in all the 3 divisions. And these are related to more of the disclosure, more of the transparency. And yes, very rightly said by Sood Saab and Gandhi Saab, that this Schedule 3 changes are there with effect from the financial statement beginning 1st of April 2021. So it would be applicable for the financial statements which are completed as on 31st March 2022. However, why we are understanding it today? Because if certain changes which have been made, if we don't do it this year, that is March 21 ending, which we could land in a huge trouble in 22. If we don't tell our clients, they would say, what are you doing? You have not told us. You should have told us. And there would be issues to the auditors again. So let us tell them in advance, starting off with the rounding off. 1 change which is done in the general instructions, basically, that rounding off was mandatory, is already mandatory for the Ind AS balance sheets. But for the other than Ind AS balance sheet, it is currently voluntary. It is optional. And the rounding off currently is based upon the turnover, which is amend it to total income. So that terminology, total income or turnover, that has been changed in the general instruction as well as the statement of profit loss. That total will be called total income, right? But now, rounding off, how the rounding off is to be done for a non-Ind AS company, because in Ind AS company, though, it is already mandatory, right? So for non-Ind AS company, rounding off is if your currently turnover from next year total income is less than 100 crores, then you can round it off to nearest 100,000, lakh, million, crore or decimal thereof. But if your company's turnover is more than 100 crores, then you cannot do 100 or 1000, but only lakhs, millions or crore or decimal thereof. Right? So many of our clients would be less than 100 crores and quite a few would also be more than 100 crores. So rounding off is voluntary for 21, mandatory for 22. Why not do it for 21 itself? Because it is allowed. It is optional. Why not do it? Right. Currently also when I see a financial statement, the statement balance sheet or profit loss or the notes, मैं देखता हूँ कि वहाँ figure लिखी होती है 21 lakhs, 24,250 rupees, 35 paisa bank balance. Currently also when it is voluntary, this paisa is not allowed, only in rupees. But now you have to do it mandatory in 22. 21 it is optional. Why not do it in 21 itself? कोई एक दो बैलेंस शीट रह जाएगी गलती से तो 22 में कर लेंगे, but 21 में तो करो. We are allowed to do it voluntarily ना, so do it. Practice कर लिया अभी. So this though is optional, I recommend to do it in 21 itself because it is allowed. Then the change in there in the balance sheet, the format, the heading of PPE has been corrected and it should have been done. So there was a talk about it a few years since last few years, where in the assets, in the non-current assets, it was only property, plant and equipment. So they have added intangible asset, and in the subline out there, instead of tangible assets, they have mentioned property, plant and equipment. So that would be done from the next year. Now here this, which Susab also referred, promoters shareholding and changes during the year. Now, currently what we are giving is the change in the shareholding, not change in the shareholding, the shareholders who are there holding 5% or more. Names of all those persons, current year and previous year. Now that is still required to be given, but apart from that, what is further required is the promoter shareholding. Now the promoters could be those persons who are having less than 5%. Or there could be a change in the promoters, or there could be a change in their shareholding. So those changes would be required to be present in 22 financial statements. So who is a promoter? If I see the promoter is defined under the Companies Act, earlier it was not there, now it has been defined, and which includes a person who is so referred to as a promoter in the annual return. So kindly check the annual return. ऐसा तो नहीं है कि पुराना जो जिसने कंपनी इनकॉर्पोरेट की थी उसी का नाम चला आ रहा अभी तक, and your promoter has changed. So kindly see your annual return, your MGT7, and see that who has been referred as a promoter. Because once you mention there, then their shareholding changes, whether it is less than 5% or more than 5% or not having any shareholding, it could be there. That will have to be mentioned. So please take care of this. Take care of this. This will be required everywhere. So 22 may there would be required, but see your annual return this year itself, because the changes will have to be given. Another change is this change is there after 2012, when there was the schedule 6 was revised. At that time, because Schedule 3 is nothing but a copy paste of Schedule 6, which was revised in 2012. When we talk about long-term borrowings, तो हम कहते हैं जो उसकी current maturity of the long-term borrowings. We currently take it as current liabilities. Now they said no, it would not be current liabilities, but it would be short-term borrowings. Not this year, but the next year, 22. So current maturities of long-term borrowing, they have been reclassified as short-term borrowing, 22. And similarly, another classification change, which is about my security deposit. Now they would not be treated as loans and advances, but would be treated as current or non-current assets. Current or not current assets. The next item is very, very important, which Gandhi Sahab also referred, and is very, very important in my view, and that is related to the trade payables aging. You know, I have been giving trainings to various independent directors and even the bankers. So I used to tell them, अरे भाई आप debtors more than less than 6 months लेते हो, trade payables की लेते हो क्या? Banker कहते जरूरत नहीं है, जो मेरा stock unpaid है उसको हम लेते ही नहीं. मैं कहता तुम सिर्फ उसी की बात कर रहे हो. You need to assess the company as a whole, ना? So you take the trade payable aging, कितने साल से pending है? Now it has been brought into the notes to the accounts itself. Currently, what we are giving is dues to MSME and other than MSME. Now I have to give, apart from the MSME and non-MSME, I have to give whether it is disputed or not. Then I have to give the aging, which is less than 1 year, 1 to 2 year, 2 to 3 year, more than 3 year. So you'll think Pramod is saying, okay, this is not for this year, na 21 में तो है नहीं, 22 में है, right? 21 में नहीं है. So 22 में आप देंगे figure. Notes में you have to give the previous year figure also. वहाँ पे क्या होगा? If you don't tell your clients now, what will happen? What will happen? In 22 you say, okay, 3 crore ज़्यादा है, चलो इस साल write off कर देते हैं. So you will see 21 3 crores, more than 3 years, 22 is nil. Will this explanation not be required? So why not see in 21 itself it is nil? Whatever is required. Should as an auditor I not see the dues which are payable more than 2 years? As an auditor, whether that is disputed or not, if not disputed, why not paid? Have an external confirmation for 2 years and above loans, trade payables. Why not? Of course, everyone wants to see that what is the paying capacity, how good paymaster the company is. So that has been brought into this Schedule 3, notes to accounts itself. 3 साल से ऊपर के कितने पेबल हैं, disputed कितने, आप कहते हैं disputed नहीं है. Then how a auditor is coming to a conclusion that even though it is not disputed, it is payable for more than 3 years, the party has not confirmed, but the balance sheet is true and fair. How will you document it? How will you document it? Please understand. Very, very important. Do it this year itself. Tell to the client, the aging निकालो जी. कितना disputed है, कितना नहीं है. Have that in your records, in your audit procedure for March 21 itself. This will help you in 22 also. Clients को भी समझाने में time लगेगा. MSME disputed, and similarly it is required for trade receivable. Whether it is doubtful or not, whether it is disputed or not. Because we have seen that trade payables, trade receivables, we say everything is good. And one fine day you say everything is bad. Even though there is litigation, everything is good. How is that possible? How is that possible? Trade receivables, again, now the aging will have to be given for less than 6 months, 6 months to 1 year, 1 to 2 year, 2 to 3 year, more than 3 years. Again, 22, 21. This more than 3 years exceeding, increasing year by year. It was 5 crores, now it is 7 crores. What business are you doing? Are they actually receivable? If they are not disputed, why they are not being received? An auditor will need to have a reasoning in his audit documentation to say that it is true and fair. Otherwise, he should say that trade receivables are overstated. They are not receivable. So this aging becomes very, very important, and the role of auditor becomes very, very important. And again, the aging of the unbilled dues, this is created in the case of service industry, where the revenue is recognized on a percentage completion method. So you recognize the revenue, but you don't bill it. So they want, okay, give me the aging, कब तक billing नहीं की, कितने time से नहीं की, 6 महीने, 1 साल, 2 साल, 3 साल, why not build? Any question on this trade receivables, trade payables, any comments, any views? Ravinder ji, a question is, changes in Schedule 3, minute detail like various ratios are applicable to small companies. It is applicable to all companies. No exception. No exception, please. Any comments, any views on this aging of trade receivables, trade payables? Would there be any issue, or is it fine? Is it required to do in 21, or only we will do in 22? Any views, any comments? No comment. I suppose everyone is fine. They're happy, okay. Good. Another requirement which is there for the aging of capital WIP and intangible asset under development. This capital WIP, it is going on since years and years, same amount. The auditor also sees it is same amount, nothing to worry. कोई change नहीं है इसमें. But if it is temporarily suspended, then you have to give the aging when it is to be completed. If it is not to be completed, there is some obstruction, write it off, or whatever is required. Do that. Do that. The requirement would be there, right? And again, in this is a small change. A new line item has been added in the schedule of PPE or the intangible asset, where the change is due to revaluation, and the change is more than 10%, then that has to be separately disclosed. And this amendment, title deed of immovable property, not held in the name of the company, which we were already given in the Caro clause 1C. Now I have to say whether if it is held in the name of the promoter, director, relative of promoter, or employee of the promoter, director. Earlier it was not held in the name of the company, then whose name it is given and the reason for such. Suppose the two companies are merged, suppose LLP has been converted into company or some other reason. So you have to give the reason, but now you have to further say whether it is held in the name of the promoter, director, or relative, because the act doesn't allow any asset to be held in the name of other than company. So the requirement is there in the CARO. The auditor has to report. If we were reporting in the last 2 years, I suppose that came into 2016 or 15, something like that. But now the company will have to first tell in their notes to the accounts. They will have to tell their notes to accounts, right? Another change which last year I was the chairman of the Valuation Standards Board. So we represented a few times that the India's balance sheet or the AS balance sheet which have been done, and there is a revaluation of the assets, property, plant and equipment, it is done by any person. In our view, that should have been done by a registered valuer. So now how they have brought in, they said, okay, under the Companies Act, the valuation has to be done as per the registered valuer, as per section 247. But In case of shares, it was being followed, but other than shares, it was not being followed. So now they have put it into the notes to the accounts, both under Ind AS division 2 and 3, as well as the non-Ind AS. That in case of revaluation of the property, plant and equipment, is the valuation done by the registered valuer. And which is, auditor is also required to comment in clause 1, clause D, in case of revaluation. As per Caro 2020, as per Caro 2020, it was, this revaluation thing was not there in 2016. Another change which is there, that in case of loans and advances in the nature of loans granted, not taken, the loan there came to the promoters, directors, KMP and related party, either severally or jointly, whether they are repayable on demand or without specifying any terms, along with percentage of total advances. हम कहते हैं भाई already दे रखा है AS 18 में, we are giving this detail, or 186.4, but we were not giving, it was not required, and we were not giving whether that is payable on demand or there are any terms for the repayment of the amount or not. Now that is required, because the auditors would have to also comment upon this in clause 3F, the amendment Caro 2020. They have put that duty on the management to first tell that in the notes to the accounts. The auditors must be thinking of taking that through the MRL. Now MRL is there, but apart from that, it would be the first duty of the management to put that in the notes to the accounts. Has the loan been given without any term? It is my subsidiary, related parties are subsidiaries also ना, बिना किसी टर्म के दिए जाओ, पैसा वापस लेना ही नहीं है, on demand है, क्या है? So that agreement would be required. First, the management would be saying, now if we see this, these amendments have been brought in, it looks like to help the auditor, to help the auditor, right? कि भैया आ गया तो मेरे को कारों में रिपोर्ट करना. Another change, that where company has not used the borrowing from the bank or financial institution for the purpose for which it was taken. Again, Caro 9C for the term loans, but here they have talked about specific purpose. So first the company would be saying that, okay, I had that, I did not use, but they are talking at which was outstanding as at the balance sheet date. Again, the auditor has to report in Caro. They have to report in Caro. Another amendment is there for the Benami property. And here, nothing to worry about. It is only to be given where any proceedings have been initiated or pending. Because it was required by the auditor to report in 1E, the Caro 2020. They say, okay, let the management say first. Let the management say first. And again, this one, a huge talked about provision, which was there in Caro 2020 extent, which is now applicable for the financial year 21-22, where the company is borrowing from the banks, stock or debtors ka hai, the quarterly returns which are filed in agreement, which are filed with the bankers, are they in agreement with the books of accounts? If not, the summary of reconciliation and reason for the material discrepancies. Because Caro ke clause 2B mein, auditors to report where it is 5 crore and above of the loan taken. I know that how our auditing standard board or auditing assurance standard board, they had several meetings to have how can an auditor do in the case of small entity, small loans, keep it to 5 crore on the auditor. Now, when we will have to give this reconciliation and the reasoning for 22, will we not be required to give for 21? Any question on this? Quarterly returns means GST returns? No, sir. Quarterly returns means quarterly returns which are filed with the bankers, stock statement and debtors in case the loan is taken. In case the loan is taken from the bank. So what we give there as my stock or my debtors. So March 22 का होगा तो March 21 का भी तो कुछ नहीं. Now, You know, one of the beauties out here is that some of my friends would say, मेरी तो सारी कंपनीज ना 20 करोड़ से नीचे वाली है, स्मॉल कंपनी, मजा आ गया, मेरी कारों की रिपोर्टिंग है ही नहीं, कारों में रिपोर्टिंग नहीं है, जो रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी है सब मैनेजमेंट की. I was just saying one day I was having a meeting with the MCA. So I just told them that you have actually done it so beautifully. Why? Because suppose there is a small company to which Caro is not applicable, but now these will have to be given in the notes to the accounts. तो जो notes to accounts में आ गया वो तो ऑडिटर ने चेक करना ही करना है. वो कारों में 5 करोड़ की लिमिट थी, यहाँ तो 10 लाख के लोन पे भी हो गया, यहाँ तो 10 लाख के लोन पे भी हो गया. So whether Caro is applicable or not, these all clauses will have to be looked into by the auditor. So please, our scope has increased to a great extent. Vinay bhai sir का कहना है कि is it CMA data, MS, OD, etc. also to check and report? No, it is basically when there is a loan, a company says, because my DP is calculated on the basis of my stock and debtors. So I give their quarterly stock statement and debtors list. So that the company gives it. So they say, what we have given to the bankers, are they agreement in the books of accounts or not? You are saying my stock is 100 crores, but in the books it is 25 crores only. So auditor will, first the company will have to report that whatever stock statement has been given to the banker, that is an agreement with the books of accounts. Now the question would come, what he has given to the bankers, that only he should share with you. So either have that acknowledged copy of the bankers, otherwise another Satyam could be there, or the mail which he has sent to them, or have directly confirmed from the bankers. You know your clients very well. So these things you will have to do even for 21. Even for 21. वरना 22 में 21 का कैसे चेक करेंगे ये पॉइंट? So please tell all the clients to arrange for the same. Arrange for the same. We know which of our clients are doing this. We'll have to tell them now, we'll have to report. Please never report anything which is factually incorrect. Auditor should never report anything which is factually incorrect. Auditor is the very easy prey. So please take care. Please take care. Another thing is which our senior Gandhi sir told, that ratios have to be given with numerator and denominator and explain if the variation is more than 25%. In the Caro 19 also it is required, because what Caro clause 19 requires, the auditor, based upon the information received, the financial statements and the ratios, whether the company would be able to meet its liabilities in the coming 12 months. The auditor have to report in clause 19, clause 19. तो कहते कौन सी ratios? कहते वो ratios notes में डलवा देते. See these ratios: trade receivable ratios, inventory turnover ratios, trade payable ratios, net capital turnover ratios. ये बाकी GP, NP ये सब तो normal है. Change है दोनों में 25% से ऊपर. What I suggest, do it this year and see the variation, and don't think for 25%. Take if the variation is more than 5% between these ratios. Have the reasoning, document it. It will improve our audit quality also. It would safeguard the auditor. We'll have to think about the auditor also, no? So these ratios, kindly do it this year itself. No, don't wait for the next year to comply with. Another change. Again, if you are seeing that these most of the clauses which the disclosure is required in the notes, because they've increased the limit of the small company to 20 crores, कारो एप्लीकेबल नहीं होगा, ऑडिटर कैसे चेक करेगा? कहते नोट्स में डाल दो, नोट्स में डाल दिया तो ऑडिटर को फिर चेक करना ही करना है, कारो रखो या ना रखो. Getting? Because whatever is there in the financial statement, auditor will have to verify it. Na? So caro or no caro, I'll have to verify. Details where a company is declared a willful defaulter by any bank, FI or others. And here if you see, there is already RBI list which they give. Okay, who's a declared willful defaulter. So first the company will tell, and then the auditor would report in the caro clause 9. And this again beautiful clause. It was put on the auditors. हम बोलते थे उनको सर कैसे वेरीफाई करेंगे? So caro clause 9E and 9F, कंपनी ने एडवांस किया किसी अदर पर्सन को एनी मनी, including the foreign entities. These all are called intermediaries, with an understanding whether recorded in writing or not, that the other party, that the intermediary would be directly or indirectly lending, investing in another entity's ultimate beneficiaries, or provide any guarantee security. मैंने एडवांस ही आपको इसलिए दिया है ताकि एडवांस, लोन, whatever we have given, with the intention that you further give it to another persons. And similarly, it is for the borrowed funds, giving and borrow. The auditors to report now that has the duty has been casted first on the management. क्या आपने इसी intention से लिया? And what whenever they would be writing about it, you will have to again verify it. You have to verify it before reporting into CAR. So MRL के साथ साथ अब notes to accounts के अंदर. Right. Now the next one is a very, very important point, which again Gandhi sir told about, is your relationship with the stock of companies, either as an investment, as a debtors, creditors, shareholders, others. If you see, I suppose yesterday I shared a document, a small note along with a format that how you need to obtain it and verify it. I shared a document. That document is available both on lonout.com as well as Experts Panel. And I have also mailed you, and those who are in direct touch, I have also WhatsApp. Understand please this thing, very, very important. A company, because when this issue came in 2016 or 17, so lots of questions were there about the shell companies, and many companies were striked off. And then they said that no one should deal with such companies. They should not have any bank account. But various companies or various entities still had those transactions with those stock of companies through one mode or other, or kept those balances outstanding. So now they say, and there is no reporting on caro for this. You have to give in the notes to the accounts that कंपनी ने कितना पैसा इन्वेस्ट कर रखा है ऐसी कंपनी में जो कि स्टॉक ऑफ है, कितना लोन ले रखा है, कितना दे रखा है, कितने डेटर्स हैं, कितने क्रेडिटर्स हैं, कितने शेयर होल्डर. You know, at that time when I was discussing, so lot of people when we had a discussion, कहते हैं प्रमोद जी ठीक है, इन्वेस्टमेंट डेटर्स क्रेडिटर्स ठीक है, शेयर होल्डर्स की तो हमारी ड्यूटी नहीं है. मैं कहा यार, legally what you are saying is right, but if it is for an example, what I told is that suppose there is a company with the two shareholders and both are companies and both are struck off. How did the AGM happen? How did the AGM happen? Lots of questions. आपने पैसा लेना है किसी struck off company से, 2014 से चला आ रहा है. That company was struck off in 15-16. You are still showing that as a debtors. How it is true and fair? How it is true and fair? ऐसे ही लोन ले रखा है, वो कंपनी स्ट्राइक ऑफ हो गई है, आप कहते हैं मेरे को तो वो पर्सन ही नहीं मिल रहा, and still you are showing that as a loan taken, loan given, whatever it may be. How it is true and fair? You'll have to write it up. You'll have to write it up. I shared that document, kindly see. And what I have said in that document, I'm repeating that please check this thing not only for the struck off company, but also struck off LLP. And to do it not only for a company because it is required to be given in the notes, do it for any entity of which we audit. चाहे वो LLP है, चाहे वो sole proprietorship, चाहे वो partnership है. I am an auditor. Struck off companies से आपके outstanding balances चले आ रहे हैं. आपने करना है क्या? आपने वो उनको फॉर्मेट देना है. फॉर्मेट देके बोलना कि इसमें आपने आप सब कंपनी के नाम, सिन नंबर और जिसने चेक किया, कब चेक किया, भर के दे दो. हम उसको क्रॉस चेक कर लेंगे. Right? Any question on this struck off? Because this is one of the very, very important, and believe me, various cases have come up under income tax that your case has been taken up because you have a transaction or balances with struck off companies, struck off entities. Any question on this? This is a very, very important point. नहीं, great. Ankit Jain ji ka, what about unsecured loan balances standing with HUF? So a company has taken loan from HUF. Do you mean that, Ankit ji? HUF is not a struck off company. Directors HUF, no. A company has taken a loan from directors HUF, no. So currently it is not allowed. Currently, the old one are still continuing, new one they are not allowed. For the effect from 1st April 2014. I tried telling MC a few times, kindly allow this. अभी तक तो नहीं हुआ. कोशिश करेंगे, करते रहेंगे, कंटिन्यूस जब भी मौका मिलेगा बार-बार कि that should be allowed. But this strike of entities, companies and LP, please be very serious about it. Now, just see that you don't do it this year. You do the next year. So please see, you are saying my debtors 22, you say no, I cannot have the struck off company, you say nil. But 21, you don't write it off. You say here 1 crore. How 21 was true and fair? What would be the position of the auditor and the management both? Because it is the first duty of the management to have it true and fair, and then not the auditor to report whether it is true and fair or not. So again, a huge, this point, struck off is one of the very, very important points. This trade receivable, trade payables, bank statements, ratios, rounding off, struck off entities, very, very important. Very, very important. Any charges or satisfaction yet to be registered with the registrar? You know, satisfaction, of course, I can register with the delayed, with the condonation, but creation, I cannot. There is only a penalty thereof. So now it will be given in the notes. You cannot avoid. You cannot avoid. And most important, most common error which is there, that is for vehicle loan. A company which is taking charge is not being registered. वो कहते हैं जी वो बैंकर ने बोला ही नहीं चार्ज रजिस्टर करने के, वो नहीं बोला but requirement है. It has to be reported in the notes now. It has to be reported in the notes now. So please take care of this. Please take care of this. And another change is that for the compliance of the number of layer of companies, that is to be given in the notes to accounts. That company has not further invested into another subsidiary, not more than 2 layers. There is a specific rules for that. So that compliance has to be done. Another change is for basically the approved schemes, arrangements. There is merger, demerger, reconstruction. So that is done in books of accounts as per the scheme and in accordance with accounting standards. So that If any deviation is there, that is to be given in the notes to account. Bringing all this into notes to accounts means more responsibility of the management initially, but including of the auditors, because the whole financial statement has to be true and fair. And whatever is the requirement of Schedule 3, whether that has been complied with or not, that is mandatory. So the role of auditor will become very, very important. So these were certain important changes in the balance sheet. In profit loss, as I discussed, the total revenue, this heading would be amended to total income. And in the revenue from operations, another line has been added, that is grants or donation received. That is only in the case of Section 8 company. An amendment is made in the notes to the accounts, or disclosure to be given in relation to profit loss, is that in case there was an income tax survey or search, in that case, if any income is surrendered, and unless there is an immunity under any scheme, how that has been recorded, which was earlier not recorded. Because auditor is required to give that detail in clause 8 of CARO. So in case of search, this undisclosed income is required, which is surrendered. Right? And of course, another change is there for the virtual currency, for the profit loss. There is always a doubt which is created in the minds of various citizens of India, that whether a resident in India person can invest into or trade into cryptocurrency or not. Leave aside that, because we have recently heard in the newspapers that the circular which was there issued by RBI, that has been withdrawn. So bankers are not allowed to restrict the companies to open an exchange for the cryptocurrency and other things. So now, if that has been done, so you have to see that the management reports in their notes to accounts that whether the company has traded or invested into cryptocurrency or virtual currency or not. Another change, they have extended the disclosure requirement for the CSR, which has to be reported in clause 20. And this clause 20 of CARO is talking only about where the money has not been spent, the unspent money, the treatment thereof, whether that has been deposited into the Schedule 7 fund or whether that has been deposited into the unspent CSR account. That is the requirement, but the CARO requirement. But here it talks about the amount required to be spent, expenditure incurred, shortfall, total previous year shortfall, reason for the shortfall, nature of the CSR activities, related party transactions, and others. Suppose the company has created its own NGO for implementing the CSR. So that becomes a related party transaction. So these were the changes. Most of these changes are there in Division 1 as well as Division 2 as well as Division 3. Other than these, the changes in Division 2 and 3, if I talk about in the Division 2 and 3, this financial liabilities, they have added this lease liabilities due to addition of the Ind AS on the leases. The statement for the changes in equity has been totally substituted. And now 2 years details have to be given. Previous year figures have to be given. Additional disclosures are required. And in this also, they have said, apart from property, plant and equipment, the fair value of the investment property also, the revaluations, whether they have been done by the registered valuer only or not. So one has to do it only through the registered valuer. And if I talk about the Division 3, the ratios, here the ratios are not those 11 ratios, because these are NBFCs. These ratios which we have to give to the RBI, the same Tier 1 CAR and Tier 2 CRR, liquidity coverage ratios, and the capital to risk weighted asset ratio. So these were the total changes which would be applicable for the financial statements ending on March 22. But in my view, because in the notes where you have to give the 22 years details, you will also have to give the 21 years details. And if you don't act for the 21 years now, the 22 years financial statements could create a lot of issues and troubles to the management as well as the auditors. So get everything cleaned in 21 itself. And yes, everyone knows about it, but still just at the cost of repetition, this is a portal experts. It is S out here, expertspanel.in. You can sign up here as either as an expert or as a querist. So once you sign up, you'll get an email with a link. The link you have to click so that your email account is verified. And once it is verified, you can ask any question on any subject: GST, income tax, corporate laws, audit, RBI, bank, international tax, whatever it is. Ask a question, the answer would be coming to your email ID. Also, the answer would be there on the portal itself. You want to see any other question, existing questions or experts or articles, you can just type it and search. Lots of articles are there, presentations are there, videos are there, notifications are there, which you can see category wise. Just click here, go to the category, it would come category wise. And it is given by various experts throughout the country. Now, more than 28,000 answers have been given by more than 115 experts throughout the country. And this presentation I'll upload on this portal, lunawat.com. And also the mobile app is there of the experts panel as well as the Lunawat. Here, ready to use charts are there, like cost inflation index recently has been announced for financial year 21-22 317. So you will get the updated chart out here, or from whom you can take a tax-free gift, Dada, Chacha, Nana, Mama, or gold, silver, incense, first 1481, or all notifications which are important for day-to-day of our practice since year 2007. You will find here. And in this pandemic, I'm sure that everyone is very safe, healthy, and happy. And also, I'll request you to remain positive, because positivity is the key for the success. You can. I'm available on the social media. You can join me on Twitter, LinkedIn, wherever you want. And I thank Chandigarh branch for giving me an opportunity to share my views. Any questions, you can please ask me. Gandhi sir, Sood sir, your views, comments. Any additions, sir?
No, sir, you have adequately dealt with all the issues in the amendment on account of amendments in Schedule 3 and other amendments also. It has been adequately done.
Absolutely, I echo Sood Saab's this thing. Thank you so much, and you really lucidly explained most of the provisions. And as you rightly said, the shell company, the fact that you've got to talk about if there's been a raid or there's been some kind of admission of any income. Disclosure of income in any tax, this thing has to be this thing. And very nicely you explained about the mergers and acquisitions, because the scheme of arrangements have to be explained very well, and the CSR part was greatly explained. And I think most of my friends on the panel, the listeners, etc., will be happy to note that what Pramodji is saying, that if you just concentrate on these individual niche areas like CSR, training independent directors, how to conduct board meetings in pandemics. He's talked about all these aspects. These are brilliant niche areas of practice for various chartered accountants, and each one of you can benefit from these. So explaining, and this is going to go on for some time, like people are doing sessions on yoga, sessions on everything remotely. It's going to go on for a few, this thing, and it's been indefinitely postponed. that board meetings and AGMs will be held virtually. So these are all areas of interest which all of you can look at. And Pramodji, I'm really grateful. I've heard you in person after a very long time. I've been very keen to hear you. Thank you so much for a very, very lucid and candid presentation. It really was very nice to hear you. Thank you so much, sir.
So nice, sir. Thanks a lot, sir.
सर एक प्रमोद जी, एक मेरा क्वेश्चन भी है।
बोलो ना उपकार सर।
क्वेश्चन सर ये है कि अभी न्यू रूल्स हैव बीन कम फॉर द कन्वर्जन फ्रॉम प्राइवेट लिमिटेड कंपनी टू ओपीसी, है ना? तो उसमें सर जो ऑलरेडी हमने कोई रूल फॉलो नहीं किया, सपोज करो पिछले फाइनेंशियल ईयर में हमारी कंपनी कन्वर्ट होनी थी, वो ऑटोमेटिक कन्वर्जन में नहीं हुई, तो व्हाट अबाउट दैट कंपनी सर?
सर देखो,
तो अभी लास्ट फाइनेंशियल उससे पहले भी कुछ कोई करो कोई रह गया, जैसे कंपनी कन्वर्ट होनी चाहिए थी कन्वर्जन प्राइवेट लिमिटेड में वो ओपीसी से, लेकिन वो बिकॉज ऑफ टर्नओवर, तो उसका क्या सीन है सर? व्हाट अबाउट दैट?
जी बड़ा अच्छा क्वेश्चन है। But now this definition of this, the requirement of OPC has been removed from the rules. So as of now, there is no requirement.
There is no requirement.
Okay. As of now, there is no requirement. The rule has been amended.
Okay.
With effect from 1st of April 2022.
हमने एक पर्टिकुलर डेट तक उसको पहले कन्वर्ट करना है, फिर उसके बाद वो
आप तो कर ही नहीं सकते ना, अब तो आपको मैंडेटरी तो करना ही नहीं है। 1 अप्रैल 21 के बाद तो रिक्वायरमेंट ही नहीं।
बिल्कुल ठीक है, ठीक है सर, ठीक। थैंक यू सर। Sir, I can see the question in chat box also. So, इसमें क्वेश्चन है, व्हाट अबाउट अनसिक्योर्ड लोन स्टैंडिंग?
वो मैंने बता दिया था।
अच्छा अच्छा, ओके ओके सर, हो गया बस, ठीक है सर, बस ठीक है। एनी मोर क्वेश्चन पूछ रहे थे सर इनसे?
मेरे ख्याल से और कोई क्वेश्चंस है नहीं हमारे पार्टिसिपेंट्स के। ऊपर सर यू कैन गो एंड क्लोज आल्सो।
हाँ जी हाँ जी बिल्कुल सर, बिल्कुल सर। सौरभ जी, आर यू देयर? चलो सर, मेरे को नहीं है लगता। थैंक यू प्रमोद जी, थैंक यू सो मच सर फॉर योर वंडरफुल प्रोग्राम। सर आपका प्रोग्राम हमेशा ही इतना बढ़िया होता है, सब लोग इतने अच्छे सुनते हैं सर।
थैंक यू भाई, थैंक यू वेरी मच सर।
सो मच सर। और आप सर हमेशा हमारे प्रोग्राम पे आते रहिएगा सर।
जरूर भाई सर, जरूर जरूर, पक्का उपकार भाई,
है ना? थैंक यू सूद साहब।
थैंक यू जी।
थैंक यू गांधी जी।
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Karji. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
थैंक यू सूद साहब, थैंक यू गांधी जी, थैंक यू।
थैंक यू।
Thank you, Pramodji. All the best.
All members for attending this program, CP meeting. Thank you so much.
राजेश भाई का कहना है कि एक वैल्यूएशन ऑफ अनकोटेड शेयर्स के ऊपर भी कर लेना है सर, जब बोलो भी कर लेंगे।
कर लेते हैं कल 100%। मैंने ना अभी जब प्रोग्राम आपका स्टार्ट हुआ तो मेरे माइंड में ये आया कि वैल्यूएशन के ऊपर आपने सर पहले भी किया प्रोग्राम, बट वैल्यूएशन के ऊपर अभी रिक्वायर्ड है सर।
It's a very relevant topic, Ji, and
Yes, relevant
Pramodji, you spoke very well there, and I think it'll really help the smaller companies and the family-owned companies on valuation.
Sure, anytime sir, anytime sir. Thank you Rajesh bhai, बिल्कुल।
Thank you Pramod ji, thank you so much.
Thank you sir, thank you very much.